this article is about BIM trends to watch in 2021. Let's see what he says. In this article, I will highlight and explore the key trends in BIM that I have my eye on. 2020 was a highly disruptive year for all of us, but it definitely opened up some key opportunities for the year to follow, both for a disrupted and evolutionary perspective. As a BIM consultant launching a new business, last year was interesting to say the least. Whilst we hurtled forward into the unknown, we found many potential clients holding back and shedding team size. By mid-year, BIM Guru has acquired a handful of regular clients who all had one thing in common. They were taking the chance to get ahead of the industry as it slowed down. Yes, very smart. Smart people thinking about the future. Over the later half of the year, I had the chance to meet many other companies and people who were silently growing and adapting against the status quo, many of them still doing as we head into this new year as stealth startups. Whilst I can't directly name some of them in this article due to NDAs, many of the trends to watch will be a reflection of things I expect to see take shape this year based on what I've heard and seen. First would be virtual offices. Whilst most of us are in the process of returning to the office, I'm aware of some studios who made the hard call to detach their staff from the physical office altogether. Such platforms as Microsoft Teams and more reliable VPN systems has shown that with the right setup and mindset, an office can exist virtually. One major benefit this concept brings to the forefront is the ability for offices to hire staff outside their local area. This in turn gives a greater potential for mercenary-style designers, technologists, and managers who can work at many places at once, all from the comfort of their home. As a consultant, it should come to no surprise that this possibility excites me, although I acknowledge that remote working isn't for everyone. I expect to see a particularly virtual approach to the average AAC office, at the very least, but I am aware of a handful of offices in the process of going 100% virtual. Rent an office or rent a server, it's your choice now. Yeah, this is so true. I cannot agree more on this. I'm on the same boat as Gavin, as a consultant. Is definitely something that fits very well with my business. But not only that, I really believe that the flexibility should definitely be a new requirement for people looking for new jobs. From my own perspective here, let's say I will look for a job in the future, I would definitely want to work from home somewhere between 1 and 3 days a week. I will have this as a requirement. Like, I don't imagine to going 5 days a week anymore at work. There is no reason for that. It's not effective for the company and it's not effective for me. We both lose more time. And I have a very good setup at home, as many other people definitely have that who likes to work from home. So I don't see any reason for that. And there is no myths anymore. Like, it's not that we cannot work from home. Yes, we do. Like, I work as a designer, making drawings, 3D modeling and such. So from this perspective, I don't see any reason. Yeah, okay, it's important to keep it social, to keep the culture, the team culture there. So that's why you meet and have some meetings and talk together and such. But at the same time, I still like much more flexibility than before should come in the package. Like, I strongly believe that companies that will be more rigid about this will lose the best talent. And the ones willing to be more flexible will gain a lot. Developer lead studios. In a typical progressive AEC firm, there is usually at least one software developer supporting bespoke internal needs. If this doesn't describe your company, then your company is behind the times. These developers are usually in a middle management role, reporting up to managers with little to no understanding of what their developers truly do. This is so true. The era we live in, especially with what is happening with the pandemic and everything, it's very, very important to automate as much as possible and try to find the most effective workflows, right? And how do you implement those workflows? Well, you need IT people. And one depends on how big a company are you talking about. But this is very true. If you don't have, then you are behind. You are behind, definitely. It should be one of the biggest alarming signs for you. In 2021, I expect the formation and strengthening of capable developer collectives who will compete against traditional firms. With a developer mindset pervading all levels of their approach, this will enable lean, competitive, and agile solutions for clients looking for different solutions. So for something different to what most traditional firms are currently offering them. An example of an early pivot of this space is Willow. I don't know about this company, formerly Ridley, who changed their business model and brand to develop a developer-centric approach. I can name here as well Bad Monkeys, which is another group of architects and engineers, but they have focused as well on the coding part mostly, and I think they have developers in their team as well, and they focus mostly on that, on the automation part. So this will have, there is a lot of potential right there, and it's something that me personally I'm also very interested about. There are many platforms emerging that would support this style of company, but one I see the most promise in is the Hyper platform. Okay, Hyper. Willow is the digital twin for built world. Hyper, the next generation platform for designing, generating, and sharing building systems. Yeah. True. I'll definitely need to have a closer look to this. I have these guys on my radar for a long time, so most probably I will extend them an invitation on my podcast, on my videocast, because I definitely want to learn more about their platform, because it connects very well with the future of our industry. Willow, I don't know too much about it, but the same, I can consider this for that as well, and I would definitely like having them joining me for a talk. Which such minds as Anthony Hawk, ex Autodesk, Ian Craig, the father of Dynamo, and Andrew Human, co-author of Human AI. This platform has some of the strongest thought leaders in BIM AEC working on it. All it requires is innovative firms to embrace it. Yeah. I cannot say anything more regarding this, but it's so simple. We are going to get many more developers in the in AEC firms, definitely. I have no doubt. Who won't do it will just be behind. And I don't know if they will have time to catch up after that. They will lose too much ground, I guess. The next thing here, pedestrian behaviors simulation. COVID-19 has forever changed how we are able to use public or leased spaces. Social distancing, screening mechanisms, and contactless controls are quickly becoming the norm in what clients require. I don't expect this to change anytime soon. This is a very good point, and it's true. This is here to stay. These are becoming requirements, standard requirements on new projects, I guess. I expect that all new projects will require a deeper consideration of how people behave within and engage with the public leased spaces. There is also a new market for the refitting of the spaces that are no longer able to function in their intended manner. I feel for such co-working companies as WeWork who not doubt have some absolute plonkers in their portfolio to functionality refit. Keep an eye on pedestrian flow simulators in the short term, such as mass motion, that will become essential for testing and providing the viability of our design in a world more conscious of epidemic control. These products are already openly marketing COVID-19 specific tools and features, so this trend is clearly emerging. Yes, I cannot add anything more special to this. I completely agree. It's the new norm. Generative design for developers, for users. If I had to name the biggest BIM overhype in 2020, it would be generative design. An attempt to launch this technology into the mainstream by Autodesk yielded small waves in the wider pool of industry innovation. Simply put, users were shown how to get answers, but not from their own questions. In reality, generative design is a highly complex process when undertaken properly. Typically, users must have a deep understanding of mathematics and geometry in order to yield meaningful results from platforms that can ably support their thinking. I expect in 2021, we will see a fizzle of programs demanding solutions authoring by the user in place of those where the deep thinking has been packaged by capable developers. Instead, such examples of which already exist as SpaceMaker, acquired via Autodesk and TestFit, albeit not exclusively generative in nature. We have also written an article that elaborates on this topic here. Okay, cool. I'll be honest about this. I don't know too much about this topic. I did not read too much about it. I was not very interested in it. Yeah, so Gavin knows what he's talking. I respect his point of view here. I cannot add anything on this. I'm sorry. A true contender for the Revit platform. This is going to be interesting. Let's see. Before some of the readers get out their pitchforks, I will acknowledge some viable contenders against Revit already exist in our industry, such as ArchiCAD, Allplan, and BricsCAD. Despite this, Autodesk continues to dominate many countries in which they operate, and their BIM authoring platform Revit follows suit. If you don't believe me, just compare the stock growth of Autodesk versus Nemetschek Group over the past 5 years. Yeah, and we know about the open letter to Autodesk. Early in 2020, an open letter put the general frustration of the industry with Revit's stagnant development into spotlight. Autodesk quickly rebutted with videos from the Revit developers, as well as a few there pats on the head. But the point has been made. Even as a regular user and enthusiast of the Revit platform, I still agree with much of what the letter covers. Revit is ripe for a sucker punch from a rival heavyweight. The Revit roadmap feels more like a holding pattern to Revit's veteran users who witnessed the major periods of its development prior to Revit 2012. I hope and expect that a stealth startup will emerge from the shadows very soon to deliver this blow, not only to provide an alternative platform, but also to force a refocusing on the development of Revit by Autodesk. I don't know what to say about this. They acquired SpaceMaker. Maybe a tool like that could have been a replacement for Revit in the future. I don't know. Or Hyper. But a new tool, a completely new tool, and the paid tool, it won't be very easy to compete with all the existing ones. I will try to combine this with the next point about openBIM, because that would make more sense. Yeah, I think if this frustration could have been directed to open source solution for AAC, that would have been interesting. And that's why I'm saying there are things happening regarding that in that sense. But the challenges are very big and the pace is very slow because the lack of interest and the belief from AEC companies that they can contribute, because unfortunately we are a very conservative industry. We don't know too much about open source, and it's difficult. The guys from OS Arch and Dion Molt from Blender BIM keep developing that software. That might be a solution. That might become a solution at some point, but is very far away from that time. Because limited time for development, limited resources. It's getting better. People start to say, but it needs much more to truly become a Revit rival. Like it needs a lot of resources. Okay, so let's go here because these 2 points connect themselves each other in a way. Open software movements. Continuing on from the previous trend, general frustration with closed platforms such as Revit have led many users to embrace openBIM as an alternative approach. The possibility of an open source contender for the closed platforms is slowly emerging. He's right, albeit in a somewhat fragmented form currently. He's right, and he knows this because he's in contact with me, with us. He sees what is happening with FreeCAD and Blender BIM. But like I said, there is still a lot to do. FreeCAD and Blender BIM show promise, and I feel that 2021 will be a formative year for the latter especially. In its current state, Blender BIM still presents a steep learning curve from both the programming and the Blender specific aspect, but with the right industry support, exactly, this curve will slowly level out. This is so true. And this is what we need. We need to raise awareness and to start helping however we can. With a small donation, with writing some documentation, or if you know coding, help with developing features. I'm not with them yet, but I encourage those supporting this movement to keep pushing. Be sure to check out the BIMvoice podcast that has been sharing many videos from the author of the Blender BIM platform, Dion Molt, recently. Thank you for the props, Gavin. And even if you say you are not with us yet, you are with us. Just doing this, just writing about this part here, this is very important. It has a big impact. Like, this is another way that you contribute. So, and it might be even better than any other way, because you don't know who ends up reading this and can be impacted and inspired by this. So yeah, thank you for doing this. This is very important. You are with us actually, and thank you for that. A simpler approach to sharing BIM than the IOC schema. I won't be the first to admit that the IOC schema is far too complex for the average BIM user to understand. Types, enums, p-sets, and an unforgiving, clunky wiki have made my own learning journey into all the things IFC a frustrating one in 2020, especially as a Revit user unable to easily generate a clean IFC support. I can't help but feel that I'm unlearning my own standards to adopt one of this, one that isn't being successfully embraced at an industry-wide level. You are welcome to disagree with me, but I don't think IFC is the approach to open data that the industry wants. Maybe it was the one it needed at the time, but I see a simpler future for wrangling BIM data into a consistent format. I just hope we haven't ventured too far down the IC path as the industry to pivot away from it. It isn't too much the schema as a whole I have an issue with, but how manual it all feels to set up and implement. I expect the future of unified information standard will exist within simpler data remapping environment, likely hosting managed and managed in the cloud. I'm aware of some stealth startups already working towards this concept and look forward to seeing them emerging soon. I agree with you, and at the same time, I disagree. But I agree with you. What I don't like most about IOC is the fact that, it needs a very advanced level of understanding it to work with it, and it should be easier to implement. But my take on this is that this is a very old standard or a very old concept that has been brought to 2020, and is not maybe the most the best, but at the same time you don't have other alternative. There are no other better alternatives, and having a standard in place, if you go on the other direction, it's very important that we have Building Smart pushing for this, that in that way people and on projects can actually say they can agree on a specific type of format, and they don't need to use proprietary format, because that was the very big challenge over the time, right? Because you have companies working with different softwares, and it was very difficult to agree what to deliver and where to deliver and such. So it's important, even if it's not the ideal solution, it's like the least evil, if you can say it that way. And it's good. Building Smart is putting a tremendous effort to keep updating it and develop it. But I agree with you, it needs to be a smarter way. And I have some feelings regarding this, and I think that smarter things, and you said here cloud platforms or whatever. I believe that what is going to disrupt IFC is going to be actually linked data in the applying the concepts from Web 3.0. I discussed a few times with Håkon about this, Håkon Reisvang. He will join me once in a while to talk about, and this is definitely a topic that is very important for us, and I really believe it's going to have a huge impact in the future. Machine learning begins to inform. Machine learning and artificial intelligence are still fairly new concepts to the AEC industry. Having said that, there are many early adopters who have been busy collecting all types of data related to their workflows and projects. Of these firms, I haven't seen too many sharing how they are putting this collected data to use, although I expect that we will see this in 2021. We've asked our computers the questions, time to see some answers. Yeah, you knock to another closed door, which is sharing data, which is a problem in our industry, and I agree with that. We need to be more often. If you want to progress quicker with this, we need to share more data and put our efforts together. But there are some platforms that are leveraging artificial intelligence. Like, I don't know how far, but SpaceMaker, it's SpaceMaker AI, right? I don't know to what extent and what exactly the AI is doing, but they are using it, right? And there are other platforms as well. Tightening of the developer-builder pincer. As long as someone needs to be suitable for the design, architects and engineers will be needed. That's what I always tell colleagues that worry about the future of our profession. My rather bleak outlook is a result of what I can see forming in the typical project delivery chain in Australia. At the front of the project, we have developers, and at the end, we have builders and operators. Ask any developers what they think of architects, and you will no doubt get many eye rolls and metaphorically burned dollars. Thanks to platforms like Archistar, developers have the ability to require the services of an architect later in the design process. This may mean that firms relying on the feasibility-based service will see a reduced demand from clients, especially as the developer clients are becoming more common. I also see many developers currently hiring in-house architects and engineers to wear the design risk that later into the project rather than engage external design consultants early in the project, in early phases. On the other end of the project, we have builders and operators pushing their tenders earlier in the project program or demanding IPD models. When I first began working in AEC in 2012, we went out for tender when we hit 100 complete detailed design. 5 years ago, I worked on a project that was tendered at 70% the detailed design. Last month, I heard of a project that was tendered at 50%. You can see which way the goalposts are moving. Sandwiched in between these two pincers are the design consultants, fighting over the scraps of a pie that left at the table when they are finally invited to sit at. Fees are reducing and will seem to be racing to the bottom. I expect this trend to continue, although I'm hopefully for an industry correction. The question is, what cost will this come at? Yeah, this is interesting. And unfortunately, I don't know exactly what to say about this. But they are very important aspects, because that's the problem, right? How do we give incentives for everybody, for designers as well, and architects, engineers and architects, and instead of fighting for scraps, taking the fight to the bottom, finding any ways to deliver value and be paid for that, for the value you bring. Conclusion: the future is yet to be written. All of these trends and many more I haven't listed may seriously change how we work in 2021 and beyond, or they may be yet to materialize when we reach 2022. Time will tell. If you are working towards any of these trends I've listed, I wish you success in your ventures and look forward to seeing your ideas materialize. We'll need innovation more than ever as we reveal the industry of yesteryear. I hope this list has been eye-opening and thought-provoking for you as the reader, and enable you to potentially spot these trends more easily as the year progresses. Yes, Gavin, man. Thank you for writing this. It was a very well-written article. I think another trend, maybe this might be something more local here in Scandinavia or Norway, but yeah, in Scandinavia as well. It becomes more and more popular to give up to drawings and to start to working on drawing-less projects. This would be one that I would like to talk more about. And another aspect, the emerging of, like you mentioned, artificial intelligence and machine learning, VR and virtual reality and augmented reality becomes standard in Norway. I guess there are many places around the world as well. So these are other things, and drones, of course. Let's not forget about drones. These are huge, and there are definitely more. It will be interesting to join me for a chat regarding other trends.